Legions world is a world of artists, of people with many creativity, and we have also now Cosmic Legions. If you go on the Cabal, you can find amazing artists, and one of them is my guest tonight, and his name is Dennis Derby. Welcome, Dennis. How are you doing?
I'm good, Alan. How are you today? Thank you for having me on.
I'm very happy because when I start to collect Mythic Legion, going inside in this war, I understand that this community is for me because I'm an artist. I'm an artist since when I was born. And so meet other artists is very cool because when you meet another artist, you feel a special chemistry. So I'm very happy to have you right here. Also because guys, people that you watch right now, guys, if you don't know, Dennis is also a musician like me, guys. So it will be a super cool special interview. Thank you guys to enjoy the stream. And also later put your question, or also right now and later, Dennis ask to all of you questions.
Absolutely, so absolutely.
I see right now super cool stuff, many characters. So which one do you choose? Do you pick to start to tell me something about your creativity in Mythic Legions?
Well, you know, I think I should start with some of the ones that I made when I first started making these guys, you know, three plus years ago. And, you know, a lot of, you know, what I got originally was from the Mythic Legions forum. I wasn't able to register on it, but, you know, there were a lot of really talented artists on there, like Jeremy and Nikki and Zombie, who are on there and making really cool customs. So I decided to go pick up a few, and this is one of the first ones that I made, and this is basically off of a Skeleton Legion builder. You can see I went kind of crazy with the colors here, but I wanted to create, you know, a lich type character, an undead mage, and really kind of give him his own sense of, well, individuality. But I probably used maybe about 80 colors on him, which was a bit of an overkill, but, you know, it was kind of one of those things where I thought I'd try it and see how it turned out. And I was pretty happy with him. He was, you know, he was one of the first ones I created, and I enjoyed that. This is one of the second ones I made here. And this guy is a snow orc or a tundra orc or whatever. And I added snow effects to his armor. Unfortunately, over time, it became sticky, and now he doesn't really move. But you live and learn. And back then, the figures were a little bit cheaper than they are nowadays. So, you know, it's one of those things. You just kind of take chances. But this is the first one I made that I was really proud of. And this is a kind of a Death Knight character. And I, you know, took the time and really did some of the engravings up and down his tabard there. So it kind of gave him an otherworldly look. And it was one of the first characters that I actually took a lot of time and really, you know, added different layers of detail and wash to create, you know, something a little bit different as far as, you know, the characters go. Because you know, I like looking at the boxes and like looking at the story that they create. But, you know, I think one of the things that you want to do when you really get into a line or, you know, a different, you know, fantasy world is you want to really create, you know, kind of something that's your own, that's individual, that's your own creative process. And, you know, whether I'm sure you do that, Alan, with your music, you know, you hear a melody, it sticks in your head, and you kind of go with that and say, okay, well, you know, where does this go? And it becomes improvisational. And so does the creation process when you're putting these guys together. And sometimes it can be really interesting, and sometimes it can be, you know, kind of a disaster, but it works out okay. Like this ogre here, I ended up covering him in a bunch of dye, and he got kind of mucked up in some paint. So I decided to take him and let him sit in the vat for a little bit. And now he's kind of a bloodish red color, pretty horrific looking, but it made for an interesting character.
When
So, you know,
there are also a name for each custom that you did when you create a character.
oh yeah,
You create also a name because we know the name is a big part of this type of
it
atmosphere and
it
mythology.
is. Yeah, and that's like one of the things you want to do when you're creating something. You want to create a character, you want to create a world around that character, and you really want to say, okay, what's the role of this character? Like the first, I guess, protagonist I made on my Instagram account was this elven hunter, and you know, elf, numerous swords, 4 or 5 knives, and a gun. And I made him a half snow elf, half wood elf, and you know, I made him kind of an awful character, but you know, he would kind of walk through the world, you know, discussing, because you use it as a reference point to introduce, let's say, a blood ogre, you know, a type of monster that, you know, you wouldn't normally see in the world, and you know, and you have a reference point to describe him. But I named him Asier, which is it's in Basque. It means the end. And his friend that he travels with is Amaya, which means the beginning in Basque. So, you know, it's always good to, you know, use different languages to kind of create a world. You know, so I use some Basque, some Spanish, not that much Italian, unfortunately, because I don't speak Italian as well as you do, my friend.
If you understand Spanish, Italian is not so different because some words
It's
are
not.
similar.
Yes, that's very,
Words are
very true. That's very true. But yeah, it's very important to come up with names for the characters, because it creates a sense of identity. It creates, you know, if you're gonna, you know, really build a world around, you know, these ideas, or, you know, these stories, because, you know, that's half the fun, is, you know, sitting down and looking at, you know, well, what's this character's idea? What's this role? What's their place in the world? You know, because you frequently see stories of, you know, good guys and bad guys, but you know, I think if you look in the world, nobody would actually think of themselves as a bad guy. They would think of themselves as having a purpose that might be a bit unconventional, or have a means that's a bit unconventional. You know, for example, an undead knight, he might not be happy with, you know, the living invading his areas, but there's a reason for that. You know, he's a character that's disconnected from the world, and had been disconnected from the world, which kind of explains his current state. But you know, I guess in every bit of a bad character, there's a bit of good, and every good character, a bit of bad. I guess it's all relative, right?
Yes, there is Walter. Yes, shout out for
Oh,
Walter.
hello,
Also
Walter.
Trevor and many other guys
Hey,
right now.
Trevor. Wow. Okay. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks, Walter. Thanks, Trevor. Who else do we
And
have
thanks,
popping up there? That's
and thanks
great.
to everyone. But in your mythos, because actually you create your version of the mythos, and there
Right.
is a guy that is your alter ego.
Mm. Yeah, there's a few. There's a few. Dolanes, the Alchemist, which here's one version of him here, which I made a long time ago. I have a few other versions of him. Let me see if I have the other one. Well, obviously this guy's always a pretty close second, but
Yes.
you know, that's a character that's kind of already taken. But you know, but yeah, absolutely. And you know, but I think when you create a character, you write a bit of yourself into any character that you create. You know, it's like if you do that with a piece of music, or you know, with a piece of writing, part of you goes into that. I mean, you know, same thing with my photography stuff. You know, part of me goes into that. You know, the creative process isn't something that's kind of done in isolation. It's something that's, you know, really, you know, it's all encompassing. It should be all encompassing, because that's what makes it rewarding. You're giving of yourself. You're putting part of yourself out in the world, and you know, whether or not you get anything back, I don't know if that really matters. I think, you know, a lot of the time you're just out there looking to, you know, create something cool, and just say to yourself, you know what, this is cool. This is something I made. This is my mark in the world, and it's fun. And I've always got a kind of kick out of that.
Yes, that's true. I also, when for example, when I'm writing, as a writer, I create a story. I
Hmm.
understand only when I read for the first time the full book that I did, because during the process to creation of a book, there is the first writing and later the editing, and so you need to read again, over and over to to correct some grammar errors, some stuff like that. And at that
Right.
time, my feelings looks like to read some book that was made by another writer. It's weird that, but it looks like that. Also because when I work on my book, I just discovered the river. I don't schedule nothing, and so I don't know what I do during the writing process. Only later, when I read the book to before to do this book to a publisher or an editor,
Hmm.
I understand sometimes that my personality is split in many different characters. So this guy has
Yeah.
something of me, this girl has something for me, or both. So is I believe this happen when you create something, because it's not something that you do. You know what do you do at the time. It's something that you discover later, because basically the art is like a magic power that got something for
Hmm.
you, and is something that pass across you, through you, inside of you, and
Yes.
born inside of you. But maybe you don't know what is that. You just follow your these needs that you have to create something.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's very true. And when I started kind of playing with these guys and really taking them apart and customizing them and kind of creating stories and worlds, a lot of that came out of from playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was younger and playing Warhammer, which were fantastic creative outlets. They were a lot of fun, a lot of painting, a lot of world building, which is really it's enjoyable. And and I think the one thing that I would kind of my advice, if somebody wanted to start customizing their figures, or kind of creating a world, eh, you know you don't really have to measure yourself or what you're doing against what somebody else is doing. You don't want to compare yourself to somebody else, because it's not healthy. It's not it's not a competition. We're not trying to create a Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or anything like that. We're trying to create our own our own little pocket world, a sense of you know some enjoyment, some and whether it's just changing a figure around a little bit, or completely deconstructing a figure. It You really put a lot of your own personality into it, and I think that's something that you know I don't think people should be intimidated by doing that. It's a scary process to put yourself out there and say, hey, this is my work. But taking the steps shouldn't be. It's a process that brings a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, and it really kind of it can be relaxing. It can be mentally stimulating. There's just a lot you can do with it.
Yes, it's true that. Also because, for example, when I do my stop motion with Mythic Legions, because in this channel I have a project of many projects. One is just review and unboxing. The other
Hmm.
one is a secret project that I can reveal for now. But when I got all guys that I need for this project, I will reveal that, because I have a secret project, and also
Cool.
another project is still secret, and also the stop motion. For example, I believe was on Thursday night, one night that, because, for example, my week is scheduled like that. On
Hmm.
Monday, Tuesday, Friday, I have wrestling live reaction on the other channel, so I am busy for that.
Right.
On Saturday, I have a weekly show right here, interview, and Wednesday I have another show for wrestling. But Thursday is a free night, so and that night is the night for my stop motion. Sometimes, because in this channel I did different type of stop motion. I create a wrestling federation of action figure with some
Hmm.
custom with my friends for some characters never had in the WWF Hasbro style. So
Yeah.
It's a weekly show for that. But
Oh,
because
cool.
I go inside to Mythic Legion, I start to do also stop motion with Mythic Legion, because before I did stop motion for Foot Fighters, Master of the Universe. But
Yep.
Mythic Legions, I remember the first time that I got my first figure that I got was King Brandon. And when I saw this guy, the detail looks like to see your hands, a character jump out from some movie, some fantasy movie that
Yep.
you didn't know. You say, wow, this guy, this little guy, tell me a story. I need to create a story
Yes.
with these figures. I need more this. So I pick the figure that I want for creating my two faction for this story, and I start to create this stop motion series. And when I last night, for example, on
That's
Thursday, I
cool.
started to work on my stop motion after my, because of this channel I have a full coverage for toy news for all merchandise, so all franchise. So also for stuff that they don't collect, because I try to give a service to all collectors for every toy line. But when I finish my job for this channel, was about 3 a.m., almost 4 a.m. Oh, wow, this is the time to do a stop motion. So I go in my toy room. I have a huge toy room with some wall diorama, because my father did in sculpt inside a wall some diorama with
Nice.
real stone. And for example, maybe later I show you one of these stop motion. I did a stop motion with the second episode with the stone troll, and because of the size of the diorama, the stone troll looks like a small character like that, because it's
That's
you
cool.
so huge, this diorama.
Oh
And
yeah, that's
I have three of them in this wall, plus many other diorama that I create. I create a diorama castle to the thing inside of the castle. I purchase some stuff from Crashbox. So because it needs the problem of this line, that this figure can work without a landscape, a background, a diorama. They needs, I
yes.
see right now also in your display an awesome diorama. They needs that, because they are a part of story. They needs a land to
Yes.
fight each other, to develop the story. So when I
Yes. A
did
place to
this,
explore.
exactly, when I did the stop motion last night, in that time I forget the time, I forget everything. And I finished that at 6 a.m. And it was very excited for that, because when we're shooting a stop motion with this diorama, you going, it looks like, because you need big patience to shooting for picture frame by frame. But in that moment, it looks like to be in this adventure, in this the story that you created, but this figure, because I
Hmm.
believe that the reason why we have a lot of artists like you in this community is because this line is a big push for creativity. So this is
I think so.
my experience now for Mythic Legions.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you made your diorama out of stone? Out
This
of your
my father did that, not me. Me,
oh wow.
I did just that with another my friend. I did a diorama for a room inside of a castle, but it's just
That's phenomenal. That's
but,
awesome.
but the diorama in the wall was made by my father, and is very huge. And when I shooting, there are three diorama in the wall. One is very big, very big. The other also big, but the biggest one, for shooting some scene, I need to go myself inside the diorama, because it's
Yeah.
big. And the problem is to shooting that. Sometimes I bent like that to shooting, and I remember when I did the stop motion with the stone troll, because of the position of my back. Later, I suffer some back pain because of the.
Yeah.
So I was injured because of my creation.
Oh
And
yeah.
when I did an interview with Nate Birch, because he did two interviews with Nate, but the first one I told with Nate this story, and he
Hmm.
gave me a good advice. He told me, say, walk, because also he suffered that in the past, and he started to walk in the night, because I'm a man of the night, and because of that, now I no longer this that problem with back pain. But the shooting, stay in the same position for a long time is not good for the back.
Yeah. No, it's like that with painting as well. You know, you could sit and paint for hours on end, and boy, when you get up, you feel it right in your back, and it's like you feel your age at that point in time. And I'm not that old yet, but it's not good. But Nate's a wonderful artist, really, really good, kind man as well. And that's good advice. You don't want to necessarily, I guess, get so involved where your physical health is going with it. Yeah, this diorama here I made out of XPS foam, and carved it myself and painted it. It's very lightweight, very portable. I'm trying to build more and more of these things, and making them look a little bit better. And just if I'm creating a ruin or kind of a deserted place, I don't have to put in as many tables, chairs, lamps, details. I can keep it very, very simple. And stonework's never that hard to do. So that can apply to painting as well. Like this guy here. This is a Minotaur that I made. Now he's not named, but I painted him. You can see he's copper and bronze.
Wow, super cool this one.
Yeah. This was the head and the torso part, and then the gloves, the gauntlets, were made by My Action Figure Customs, and they have a wonderful library of parts that I think just really enhance what you can do with these figures as well. And like Brian Burke is another one. He made the head on this guy here, this devil character, and then Seba and Julie over Planetary Dog Toys also do a nice job. But what I did is I just created just the whole thing in copper, and then put in like a nickel oxide wash, so it has that greenish tint like an old copper statue should have. And then the whole story behind this is, have you been to Knossos before in Crete, the over south of Greece? But it's part of the ruins, the Minoan ruins, where the legend of the Minotaur came from. But what I imagined was an automaton, a mechanical creature that was guarding the isle that of a long gone civilization. Now I'm still trying to work on the ruins for that civilization out of this foam, but I have the story at least to start with, so that's always good. But yeah, they have a wonderful parts library. It's really just some first-rate sculpting, and I really like them a lot. So, but yeah,
And
I think
speaking of your diorama that you did, how long was the work to do this diorama that you have right here?
this one took me about 3 days.
Oh, only 3 days. Wow.
Yeah, but I've done maybe 15 or 16 of them. A lot of them have gone right into the trash. So at that point, I'm kind of like, I know how to do. I can do stairs fairly easily, and anything that gets kind of messed up a little bit, I'll just take it and cover it with moss, so that way it looks like it has plants growing on it instead of having errors.
I think it's the time to you to do a video for your entire collection of custom and this diorama.
I should, and I haven't done that. I have 3 little kids, so the free time isn't always so easy. But yeah, at some point in time, I should catalog the whole bunch of these guys, because so many of them are floating around, and one of them just fell on the floor.
I believe also just a video collection update of the collection should be cool.
Yeah, that would be it's a great idea, and kind of one, I think, not just video, but maybe still photos as well, just with maybe a paragraph or two, just kind of describing the character, where they're from, what their story is, why they're there. But it's a lot of fun. I actually made a series of stories just within a tavern with different people walking up to the Witcher and asking him to work. I had this guy come up and ask him if he had seen any ogres rampaging in the area, and this is another one where the shoulder pads and the head and the gauntlets are from My Action Figure Customs. I think I'm not sure who did the shoulder pads, but Sebadam did the sculpt on the head, and it's a very, very expressive head.
The
And
body,
that's,
the body, the body of this one is both of the tower.
yeah, the body of this is a Bolthor the Tower body, and you can see the hands. I didn't do any color to the body at all. The only thing I painted the shoulder pads, the gauntlets, and the head. So that made it kind of fun. And this guy here, this is the I made basically the Jersey Devil, which is it's a story about a devil in the Pine Barrens that wanders around the North New Jersey woods, which is it's a lovely place. But I lived in New Jersey when I was a kid, and I would hear stories about it all the time. But but this is maybe a little bit of a stretch here. But I took the Shadow Equidron, didn't change anything, added this head from Brian Burke, and added this axe from Detour, and it was a lot of fun. You can do a whole lot to change the base character with just a couple of different small pieces, like the Calavius character, the African American gladiator. I put on a head here from Sebadam and Julie at Planetary Dog Toys. Added a scimitar and a shield. I can't remember who those are from, but the vest and the loin piece come from My Action Figure Customs. So there's just with a lot of the third party guys, it really creates it creates an additional library, something else to draw from. But you can use that, or you can use other toy lines to draw from as well, and it makes it kind of fun. Or you can just like for this, like I gave Aza here some hair and eyeballs, because if you don't have my oldest daughter Elizabeth is 6 years old now, and she was upset when she first saw the Elf Rangers because they have nothing but green eyes. And she said to me, "Daddy, he can't see. He doesn't have eyes." And I said to her, "Elizabeth, you're right. Let's fix that." So we promptly fixed that. But that was one of her favorite characters. So yeah, it makes for kind of a fun, interesting range of different parts that you can draw from. And it doesn't necessarily have to be one type of theme, like a Lord of the Rings theme, or even the character biographies they put on the side of the box. I think you have a lot of freedom to kind of go in whatever direction you really want to do. And the painting aspect isn't that hard. I use mostly acrylic paints, the same stuff that a lot of customizers use. That mostly they're for miniatures. But I use them for these. I also use dye as well, synthetic dye. Like this guy was dyed. Geralt here, his outfit was dyed black. Put it in a crock pot for a day with some Rit synthetic dye. And it worked out pretty well. And and then sometimes I'll even create my own soft goods as well, just to differentiate it, make it look a little bit like your own creation. So those things are kind of fun. But the time and patience with painting these guys, there's many different resources. If you look at like Games Workshop's site, they have a lot of painting tutorials. There's a lot of tutorials out that you've seen for action figures as well. And I use a combination. I use traditional brushes and air brushes as well. Mostly for flesh tones, I'll use air brushes because you can get a more realistic flesh tone just with a very, very thin coat of paint. You don't have any blotches. Although with some characters, like let's say orcs and goblins, you want a little bit of a blotchy skin tone there just to kind of make them look a little bit, different, monstrous, or whatever else. Like this goblin here, I painted with Caucasian flesh tone, but he's obviously not a human. He's he's a goblin. But
cool.
he's got a he looks familiar enough to be scary. And that's kind of what I was going for.
When you create these characters, no,
Mm-hmm.
you create also the relationship, the rules in your story for them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What you want to do is you want to create, a sense of character, a sense of where they are, where they're from. And, I've created kind of my own geography, my own map of a world. And, you look at, okay, this person is from here. And like the capital city that I designed, I kind of modeled it after the Parque Güell in Barcelona, that Gaudi did, just because the various landscapes, the colors, just it's otherworldly, but in a familiar way. And I think, if you're gonna go the route of creating a fantasy world, you want to pinpoint, certain artistic anchors where it fits, because you obviously don't want to have something that looks completely alien to the rest of your creations. You want it all to fit together, to actually be a cohesive world space. And I think, for me, that's kind of important, and you see that in a lot of what people create in this line. They'll either have like a natural anchor point, or they'll have like a story anchor point, something that binds it all together, like just a big world view. And and it makes it kind of fun.
And also now we have also the Cosmic Legions, another type of word now, another font of inspiration, no? I believe
Hmm.
also for customizer, because when I saw the reveal of that, I start all I can do
Yeah.
with these guys in my story, because basically I want to create stop motion in general. And so
Oh yeah.
I start to imagine something that can do that, because I'm a big fan of fantasy, also because yes, I like Lord of the Ring, but also because when I play also a board game called Hero Quest. Hero Quest is a
Oh
war.
yeah. That's a great game. Yes.
Exactly. And because of Hero Quest is one of the first reason why, one of the many reasons that I start to collect Mythic Legions, because of Hero Quest. Because it looks like in the beginning, my feelings was looks like to have a giant version of this world. Your quest is so miniature, so small,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
I like big stuff in general. I have, for example, the play set of Snake Mountain of Super 7 Master of the Universe, because I like something big, very big. And so I like when you got this type of figures, a small character, a little bit bigger, the troll. So I like that.
Yeah.
Find different stuff. And I like a Cosmic Legion because I like also sci-fi. I like Star Wars, and you can
Yeah.
find something similar also for that. And also because I'm a Master of the Universe fan, in the Master of the Universe you find fantasy and sci-fi at the
Yes.
same time.
Absolutely.
So the reason why I like this, but I like one thing that happened to me when I start to collect Mythic Legions. I watched my other collections I have, I think something different, something special. They
Hmm.
become my favorite now, because I like the philosophy behind these type of figures, the creativity, the push to creativity for the people, the respect. You understand
Yeah.
that the people that create that, Eric Treadaway, that I call the genius behind the Legions, is an awesome
Hmm.
artist, because he's basically is a writer, and each wave is a chapter of his book, of his story. And I like this philosophy to do a toy line, not just a toy line because to do money, without a real story. The story is very articulated. No? Also now with Cosmic Legions we understand this more articulated than Mythic Legions, because we have not just bad
Hmm.
guys, good guys, but different shadow of gray inside. And also we
Yep.
know that the people are in one affiliation is not genuine affiliation, but maybe also in the other one. You don't understand is the people, the rules on Valkat are good or bad, and the prison are good or bad, because there are many different shades of gray. And I like that,
Yes.
this philosophy to create a story.
Yeah. No, I agree entirely. And that's one of the things that the Four Horsemen have been really good at, is they give you enough, they give you a background, but not enough to push you in one direction or another for what the characters are or what the story is. And I remember when I was, I think I was maybe 10 years old, and I saw the toy, the first Skeletor toy at the toy store, and I had no idea what the Masters of the Universe was or anything like that. But I just saw this really cool blue toy with a big skull, and I was like, wow, that's really awesome. And he didn't, I think it came with a comic book that I couldn't read, because the writing was so small. And but I could create my own world as far as those characters went. And I would play with them with like Dungeons and Dragons stuff and all that. So you really created a sense of of, again, world building, that real. And I think that's toy creators that that respect their customers' intellect, that respect their creativity, they're going to make better product, because it gives the consumer, the person that's buying this object, room to expand, go further with it, make it become something further than what the original intention was to be created. And that's kind of what that's what I'm attracted to in a toy line or a creative process. And Hero Quest is a great game for that, because that's a game where some of the adversaries you come across are larger than life, and it's really quite marvelous. So yeah, I see that 100% there.
Awesome. And I like also your way to push your creativity, because I understand you following your instinct and you create something, because you follow with some atmosphere like Mythic Legions. But I'm not surprised that you are also a musician, and also that you
Mhm.
are also a photographer. And I have a question for you. It is not related with Mythic Legions, but it related about your creation in general. How
Mhm.
start your passion to shooting photo of bird and your passion for bird watching?
Oh, you have to be extremely, extremely patient for that. And I've been doing it for, I guess, 25 years now. But over the last couple of years, I've just been doing it, locally within walking. But you have to have a lot of patience, and it's similar to the same thing when you're, creating a character or painting something, because you have to have an idea of what direction you're going in first. For example, if I wanted to get, a warbler species, I would have to go out here between the first week of May until the first week of June, or then again end of August till the middle of September, because that's when these species will come through. I live down the street from Lake Michigan, so that's a big flyover spot for a lot of migrating species. So it's I'll be completely covered in camouflage. My camera and lens weigh about 25 pounds, so I do have it mounted on a tripod. And yeah, it's kind of just knowing, it's knowing your subject, knowing what to look for, saying, okay, if I wait by, let's say, some beauty berries or some dogwoods, I know that these birds are going to fly through, because the insects that they prey upon are going to be in the berries here eating them. So that's, so I know that if I'm patient and I wait there, that's where I'm going to find something. And I think the same thing with, with if you're creating a piece of music, or you're trying to put together, a character, you sit there and look at it and say, okay, this is kind of the direction I want to go. And I kind of want to, a darker fantasy character. So you know what your palette of colors is going to be. You have an idea. You want, you have an idea of where the character's from, what direction they're going to go, and you kind of take that and you kind of move with that. And it's the same type of process. It doesn't come out of the blue. There's a starting point. There's a sense of logic, and I think in creativity, like if you're creating a musical piece, you don't just randomly change a key or a time signature unless there's a reason for it. But it doesn't happen too often. except for when like you have like in Recuerdos del Alhambra, you go from a minor to a major, but it's very, very similar tonally, with the exception of the two notes that change when they switch over to the major key. But yeah, it's the same point of reference where you say to yourself, okay, now, if I have a character that's, kind of rough around the edges, like let's say I have like, let's say this orc hunter here, he's going to be, in that face came from my action figure customs, but the rest of it is the Vorthog character, which is a great character because you get both
Yes,
sets of feet there.
I have
Yeah.
Volkswagen.
Oh, he's a great piece
Awesome.
because you can, you have this wonderful new chest piece, but the shield also came from my action figures. But so I created the idea of this was going to be, an orc that was a hunter that would have a relatively difficult but brutal life. But you want a sense of intelligence. You don't just say he's a dumb animal or whatever else. You have a sense of intelligence. You have a character that's well armed, well prepared, and you don't you never. I think when you're creating something, you never want to like the same thing of like, you never have a character that says, oh, I'm evil. You never have a character that says, I'm stupid. That everybody has a reason for being there. Everybody has a reason to exist, and you don't want to deprive your characters of that, because that makes for a very boring story.
Exactly. No, each character needs a backstory, maybe a
Yeah.
backstory that you don't know in the beginning of the story, and you understand just
Mm-hmm.
later. For example, when I work on my novel, in general, I don't know what is the backstory on my characters, but when the story continues, I discover their backstory, their problem, their dark side or light side,
Yeah.
because if each of us, in every people, in each people we have, in each person, we have.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes my English is crazy because, guys,
Your
remember
English is
that
fantastic.
I
It's better than
told
my
this,
Italian.
I told this story with Trevor also. I learned English with wrestling, so you can understand. You can wonder the quality of my English.
It's very good. I mean, it's much better than I could be doing it in Italian. Spanish I do
you
okay with.
you can say something Italian or nothing.
Pretty much nothing. I would embarrass myself terribly, so I'm not going to try.
If you want, I give a little Italian lesson in a few seconds. If you want say, for example, my name is Dennis Derby, in Italian
Uh-huh.
is io mi chiamo Dennis Derby.
Io me chiamo Dennis Derby,
Exactly.
something like that. Okay. In Spanish is me llamo Dennis Derby. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Now I at least know that.
Io mi chiamo in Italian, me amo in Spanish. So
Yeah.
they are close.
Yeah. Llamar to name. Both I guess both are from they're Latin based. So yeah, that would make
Yeah,
sense.
exactly.
No,
Exactly.
and that's very cool. I mean, that's but yeah, that's again, like creating a name, creating an identity. Yeah, that's important stuff when you're trying to create a character and a backstory, and really just and it's okay not to do that with characters too. You can just create a character. Like I've done a couple characters where I've just painted them up, and then the story comes afterwards. It's like, well, like this character with this gold armor here, painted him
Cool.
up, gave him a huge sword. Wasn't quite sure what to make of him, but looking at him the way he stands, he comes across as being somewhat arrogant, somewhat lofty, and I think that's where we're probably going to go with the character. I haven't sat down and done a whole lot of work on him yet, since he's fairly recent. This is it's Magnus with a Dark Souls helmet from Ari Yuli, the Buster sword, and I think that came from Merplay, I think. And then the shoulder pauldrons, I took them off of a Silver Dwarf Legion builder and just ended up painting them gold. And that's, again, one of the tools of the trade. A lot of people in the cabal will be able to, help you out matching paint colors, or, I don't necessarily match paint. I match it fine, but I don't necessarily remember what I use, because a lot of times I just mix it myself, and it makes it just easier. But there's a whole lot of people out there that can certainly help out and kind of give guidance as far as how you want to go about working on a character and whatnot.
Did you customize also a troll before?
I have not customized a troll yet. I know a few people have, but I have not gotten around to it yet. With the trolls, the size, it's almost prohibitive to do that much custom work on them, because you don't really have a library of parts. You have 4 or 5 trolls so far, and they're great, but they're these huge figures, and it's really hard to say, okay, I'm going to take this thing apart and make something else out of it. But there's, I've had a couple of different figures where I've, kind of taken a lot of things apart, put it back together, and been kind of surprised with how it turned out. But yeah, it's fun, because you can make something that's very interesting, or you can make something that's completely disastrous, but that's half the fun of the process.
I saw also that you did, I believe, in the stream with Jeremy and Nikki. You did also a
Yeah,
custom based on one character of Cosmic Legions, I believe. I'm correct?
I did. And that was off the Thura character. Hold on, let me grab her. Let me grab her real quick. I had her over here because I was taking pictures of her earlier. Here we go. Sorry to hop off the camera there, but yeah, you can see her. What I did was I basically used the Artemis Silver Cord wings, along with the head from Cosmic Legions. The hairpiece is from the Malena character. Most of the body here is from Mira Golden Branch, and some of the gauntlet pieces and the foot pieces are from Lord Iden. So and then the waist piece I customized. So not a whole lot of painting, but what I basically did is with the face is, I wasn't sure what. I deliberately didn't look at the cosmic character release before I did this, because I didn't want to have any conflicting ideas, or have kind of I didn't want to have a bias ahead of time. So I looked at it, and I kind of saw like a woodland spirit related to a butterfly, so therefore I attached the butterfly wings on, and we have, I think, 8 eyes on here, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if the parts were supposed to be eyes or not, but I made them into eyes. So it kind of like a woodland spirit, like a dryad or a sliff, something that's a woodland guardian, and that made it kind of interesting. So that's kind of how I came up with that. And and I originally wanted to do a few other pieces with this particular headpiece, including a vampire, painting it white, and then kind of like having those eyes be like, blood chambers that fill up after feeding or whatnot. But I really liked how she came out the first time, so I didn't change anything. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to leave this. When the figure comes out, I'll get more of it, and then I'll kind of take it apart from there. But it's interesting, because the head is meant for a 1.0 torso, like this Galeron here, and so I had to kind of play with it a little bit to get it to work on the 2.0 torso, but it worked out pretty well, and it was a lot of fun. And I appreciate Jeremy letting me do that, and working with Nikki and Joe on that was a lot of fun too. It was really kind of like a cool project to see what everybody came up with. And there's some really, really wonderful parts in that lineup, especially those reptilian torsos. I plan on making a lot of like dragon and lizard people out of those. There's a lot of realm of possibilities. If you take those, then you take like the bat wings that recently came out on the Aerotheer wave. It creates a huge parts library to draw from. So, really the only limitations you have are your own imagination after that.
Okay, if you can imagine, wonder you can do in the future with Cosmic Legions character. Do you think that with these Cosmic Legions you will customize character? Because this one that you did, it looks like
Mm-hmm.
a new character, but for the Mythic Legions world, fantasy world.
Yeah,
No? You think that you will put these Cosmic Legions parts in the future to continue your project in this fantasy world, or maybe you will go also in the sci-fi direction?
that's a great question, Alan. I don't know. I don't. I kind of look at it. When I was looking at the parts on those, I actually saw a lot of potential to add like a steampunk type of fantasy, like the Starjammer stuff from Dungeons and Dragons back in the '90s, where they kind of like put in the steampunk along with a little bit of sci-fi. And so I don't know if I'm going to keep two separate lines or if I just push the whole thing together and whoops and see what happens. So
Will
I
be
don't.
will be very interesting discover
Yeah.
in which direction you will go. Speaking of steampunk, I like it's not related with Mythic Legions, but I remember that because he talked about that with Rob Lamb. I believe it was last
Hmm.
week or 2 weeks ago. I remember a cartoon that was looks like the first ever steampunk concept before the steampunk become popular. I'm talking about Marshall Bravestar because that
Yeah.
show was Western in space, but also steampunk. Speaking of the character, so the shape of the character.
Yeah, it did, and that kind of that did give a lot of, it gave like a bit of Wild West with sci-fi, and that was pretty cool. I think we saw that kind of echo in a lot of properties afterwards, but it's good to see that. It's good to see like the blending of different lines, seeing different directions kind of merge together, and that's something I think you want to see or try to do. But I mean, there's no harm in actually keeping one line exclusive or doing one particular. But I don't think there's any harm in having the conversation of whether or not you want to incorporate those elements into it, and it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a linear time frame either. You could have the same world, but 400 years later, many eons beforehand, and then kind of you give yourself a sense of history. You give because I mean you could do that if you go from the Roman times to Dark Ages and to the 1700s. You have different technologies, different types of warfare and whatnot, and I don't think there's any reason to not to limit that. So it could be kind of fun.
Maybe the big challenge is creating something fantasy and not sci-fi with a character like Slug, because Slug
Yeah,
is a typical alien. Is a big challenge. Customize this big guy, no?
yeah. That one would be. I think that would be one of the tougher ones to try to customize because the part library is kind of limited to that. Whereas with with some of the regular sized characters, you already have a lot of different parts. You have a lot of different shoulder pieces, weapons, and whatnot that you can draw from, and that makes it a little bit easier, I think, to customize and create when you have a whole lot to work with.
Yes, when you have more opportunity, more. I forget the real word for to say that. Then when different way we have different way with different. So, for
Yeah,
example, the size of the ogre, we have more way than knack. The name is difficult to pronounce. The Kragnar, I believe, the guy with 4 arms.
the forearms. Yeah,
That one, for example, should be is close to create something mythic with this guy, because he's
Yes.
basically a monster that could be also in the mythic fantasy stuff.
Yeah,
But
and you could use an
like
ogre with
Slug,
that.
this is a typical. You haven't other character with this library, so is a big challenge. But sometimes, in my opinion, when the talent find a big challenge and is
Hmm.
able to pass through this challenge, maybe later become a masterpiece if you find the way to customize this guy, because
Yeah.
where you got, in my opinion, in the creativity, the limitation sometimes, the limitation, for example, when some, I remember in the past I did some soundtrack for some director in Italy, and the direction of the director is a limitation for your creativity, because you need to satisfy the job of your boss at the time. So it's a
Yep.
limitation for your creativity, but this limitation become a source to create something better. I think the
Yeah,
same thing you
absolutely.
can we can do we can say the same things also for Slug, because Slug, yes, is a big challenge. Try to customize this guy, because we haven't. He is not a troll size. He's not a ogre size. He's not a dwarf or human being or elf size. So all I can do with this guy. So it's a big challenge. But if you
It's a
find a
huge
way
challenge.
to do
Yeah.
something with this one, maybe it will be something very special.
I think it would be kind of cool. I mean, it'd be worth the try, and that's where you get the creative juices flowing and really, figure out what you can do with it. Well,
How,
cool.
how much time do you still have now for our
I
show?
have a couple minutes left. I have to get going pretty soon because I have to get to bed so I can get up with the kids first thing in the morning.
Okay, maybe other 10 minutes. It's okay for you.
Sure, sure. Do we have any questions yet?
There is basically a lot of comments. Maybe we read some comments. Uh,
Cool.
this one.
Oh, wait, I see the comments here. Well,
Yes.
I can click on that.
This comment
Oh,
from Walter for
thanks,
you
Trevor.
is one of the most creative person I know, says Walter to you.
Nice, nice. Yes. And Stephen Delatour, that's Detour. He's the one that created the axe on this bad boy here.
Oh, wow.
Phenomenal, phenomenal creative
Shout
guy
out
right
to
there.
Steven to this awesome job.
Yeah, he did a phenomenal job, and yeah, so it's cool, And I see Eugene on there. How are you, Eugene? Good to see you. Steve, good to see you. Awesome. Oh wow, really good stuff there, guys. Thank you. Thanks for chiming in. That's pretty
And
cool. I had no idea that the comments were up there until you mentioned it.
yes, you can see the comments also. Yes, there is the live chat for with the comments. And tell me something
Well,
about the
thanks, Louis.
music. Tell
What's
me
that?
something. Tell me something about the music, the guitar. How start your
Oh,
passion?
sure, sure.
How you
Well,
discover your talent for that?
my mom played guitar when I was a kid, but she had a nice Gibson 12 string, a beautiful instrument. But I played like some rock stuff when I was younger. But when I was 22, I moved down to Jupiter in Florida, not the planet. This is on the coast, citrus country. And one of my friends down there that I knew from college, he was a jazz musician. He's passed since then. But when I moved down there, I ended up uh, talking with him for a bit and ended up just taking up classical guitar because I'd moved to a new place. I needed something to do to kind of, I was working in finance. That was my first job in finance then. And it ended up being something I really enjoyed. And, it's a thoughtful process, very, very disciplined, and just, very, very, combines a lot of different creative processes with a lot of intellectual processes as well. So
So
that's kind
I
of how
mean,
I got into it.
so I think that maybe it's time to you to play something now.
I'll play something. This is a piece called A Pale View by David Pritchard. Whoops. Not how I usually sit, but. It's a
Cool.
nice piece. Yeah, I like it. Didn't play it perfectly, but that's okay. And I'll just kind of play one more little thing before I go. A little bit of a tango
Cool.
there.
This
It's
one, this
I'll be
one. When I listen this second song, I try
mhm.
to imagine a dance between a girl and a man. I like a tango dance or some stuff like
Oh, like
that.
an Argentinian tango. Oh, it's a portangos, which is it's a flamenco form. It's basically for accompanying either a song or dance. And then the Argentinian tangos are similar, but I guess in Argentina you had the music's a little bit different. You have a lot of Italian influences. A lot of people from Italy moved to Argentina, some German as well. And so you have like you have that tango moving into like a milonga as well, which is really a lot of fun too. So
Do you like? There is a famous guitarist of this type of music. The name was Segovia. Segovia.
yeah, Andres Segovia.
Do you like
Yeah,
him?
I do. I do. He passed maybe 20 years ago, but he played a lot of classical type of pieces. Like a lot of Spanish folk stuff.
Cool.
But he did a lot of stuff like that, and
This
then
one, this
he
one
played
is
some
so.
Bach stuff.
This one is so romantic. Is the
Yeah,
perfect
yeah,
song to play with the guitar for
it
a
is. Yeah,
girl.
the Romance de Amor. And that's a piece he played that a lot, and he played a lot of just different, like a lot of Bach. Um, then Torobo wrote a lot of pieces for him. Um, really like some neat stuff that came out of that period of time. He lived for 101 years, I think. So he lived for quite a while. And he's
What is,
playing up until the end.
what is your favorite guitarist and why?
Oh boy, my favorite probably Vicente Amigo. He's a Spanish guitarist. Why? Um, he uses a lot of harmonies that you hear like in pieces by like Pat Metheny. You know, a lot of ninths, a lot of sevenths, a lot of 13ths. You know, and also um, a lot of intonation that's kind of implied, like, you know, when you play like you know, a piece where you have the harmonies that, you know, they're like, you know, that's a piece by Ralph Towner, but he's a jazz guitarist. But you know, that piece is, I think it's in E minor, but you know, from half of the notes in there that they don't fit in that, and it makes it interesting because it kind of it implies a different feel. You know, it creates a different pattern in your mind when you hear that type of music, I think. So that's why I
Interesting.
like him. Yeah,
Interesting. I like this idea, these different feelings, because some notes don't fit very well with this tone. So it's
yeah,
because
yeah.
the notes are like a core, so give you the inspiration. For example, uh, I'm not good with the guitar, but uh, a minor give you something a little bit sad, or something that needs on the piano, for example. A major is different because a little bit peaceful,
Hmm.
a little bit positive. I don't know why, but there
Yeah,
is because there's something in the song, in the notes, especially they create the song, they give you
yeah,
the feelings inside, like the color, and
yeah.
also
With an
depend
A
also
major.
for your personality, because maybe you feel better some color than the other one. Now, for example, I like
Hmm.
black, but for some people, black is not a good color. Depend to the feelings of the people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like blue. That's my favorite. So
There
no,
is a
that's good.
maybe the last question for you. This one because
Sure.
interesting for the people that will be on Legion's Con. Then Steven says, Dennis, will you have any custom for sale at Legion Cons next month?
I think I should, or at least some parts. You know, again, I got to figure out how much of these dioramas I can fit into a suitcase, and we'll go from there. So I hope so.
And take care to don't broken that diorama in a suitcase, because
I will make sure I take very good care of it and bring extra glue just in case.
exactly. And now, my friends, I go to the piano, but don't cry, guys, because I believe that in the future, Dennis will return on this show.
I'll be around. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. Thank you, guys, to enjoy this show and this amazing conversation with an amazing artist and Mythic Legions Customizer. And don't forget, go to Instagram and follow the profile of Dennis to understand what is next for his custom figure and his participation on the Legion's Con. Thank you, Dennis, to enjoy the show. Thank
Thank
you
you,
to
Alan. It was a
everyone.
pleasure.
Thank you to everyone to
Yes,
be a part in my show. And remember, next Saturday, because tonight was the episode 31, but next Saturday on my show will be Roby Goran, and was a screenwriter that worked on the Master of the Universe cartoon, Brave Star, Filmation Ghostbusters, She-Ra, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and more. So, guys, next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, this amazing new episode. Thank you, Dennis, again to join the
thank
show with
you,
me.
Alan.
You are an amazing artist.
Absolutely.
Uh,
And
it's
you
a
are
big
as well, my friend.
pleasure, also because we are both musicians, and I like it. I
That
like
was
also
nice.
your bird watching stuff, because
Thank you.
in the nature, as an artist, we find a magical balance because of the nature.
There's a palette of colors just waiting for us. Yes.
Exactly. So thank you so much, and thank you guys to enjoy the show. See you soon. If you are new guys on the channel, don't forget to subscribe, because I cover everything on this channel. Speaking of toy news, review stop motion, and more is coming, and more is coming also for Mythic Legions. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, Danny, and so long, everybody. Goodbye to